Alright, you Reds, take a deep breath. Because what is happening around the City ground right now is nothing short of a whirlwind. If you thought the transfer window slamming shut was the end of the drama, you don't know this football club. This isn't just news. This is Nottingham Forest news. It's a different level of chaos, a different level of passion, and the last 72 hours have been absolutely biblical. We are talking about moves that will define our season, battles fought and off the pitch, and whispers that could shake the very foundations of the manager's office. It's everything all at once, and we need to break it down. On the table today, we have a signing that was made and then almost immediately unmade. A player who arrived only to depart in one of the most bizarre transfer arrangements you will ever see in modern football. How do you even begin to explain that one? It's a head scratcher, a truly puzzling piece of business that has left so many fans asking, what on earth is the strategy here? Then, from a new face to an old one, a striker we all remember, a player with flashes of pure, undeniable talent who left the club, is now making headlines again, linked with a shocking move to a massive club north of the border. It's a story that proves that once a player leaves Forest, their journey is still one we all watch with keen interest. But the drama doesn't stop with players, not by a long shot. There's been a monumental victory, but this one wasn't earned over 90 minutes. It was won in the courts, a landmark legal battle against the suits, against the very authorities of English football. It's a fight the club took on when many thought they should just stay quiet, and the result is a massive statement. It's a win for Nottingham Forest, a win for our values, and it sends a message to the entire league. And just as that news was settling in, bang! Deadline day delivered a bombshell. A player from North London, a household name, a man with a cabinet full of Premier League winners' medals has walked through the doors. It's the kind of signing that makes everyone else sit up and take notice. A real statement of intent. But what about the man who'll manage him? That brings us to the biggest story of all, the one that's bubbling under the surface with real menace. There are growing rumors of a rift in the hierarchy, of tension between the manager and the owner, and a world-class title-winning manager is reportedly waiting in the wings. Is the success that got us into Europe for the first time in a generation already being forgotten? It's a massive, massive question. So what do you think is the biggest story here? The madness of the transfer dealings or the potential earthquake in the dugout? Before we dive into the first incredible revelation, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now and get in the comments with your immediate gut reaction to all this chaos. You done it? Good. Let's get started. Because this first piece of news is genuinely one of the strangest deals I have ever had to report. It concerns our newest signing, who, believe it or not, is already gone. Right. Let's try and get our heads around this one. A new signing is announced. The club puts out the graphics, the welcome messages go up. You, as a fan, you do your research. You head over to YouTube, you type in his name, you watch the highlight reels. A young, hungry, 21-year-old left back from Brazil. You see him bombing down the wing, putting in tackles. You think, okay, decent. Some much-needed competition, some depth for the season ahead. It's a solid, sensible signing. You get a little bit excited. You start picturing him in the Garibaldi red. And then just 4 days later, 4 days, he's gone. Not sold, not released, but packed off on a plane straight back to the club we just bought him from. It is, without exaggeration, absolutely baffling. The player I'm talking about is, of course, Cuiabano. Yes, the talented fullback we officially signed from the Brazilian club Botafogo. The ink on his contract here in Nottingham can't have been more than a few hours dry before he was heading back to the airport to rejoin his old team on loan. The deal was announced by Forest, celebrated by the fans, and then, in a stunning reversal, it was confirmed he's going straight back. This isn't a case of a deal falling through. This is a case of a deal being intentionally, well, bizarre. It caught everyone by surprise, from the fans in Nottingham to the press in Rio de Janeiro. It's a move that immediately raises more questions than answers and shines a light on the intricate and sometimes downright weird strategies of modern football ownership and player development. So what is the official line? What is the logic here? According to the reports coming out of both clubs, this was a pre-planned part of the negotiation. Nottingham Forest's strategy, it seems, is linked to the player's long-term adaptation to European football. The thinking from the Forest hierarchy is that Cuiabano, at just 21, will benefit more from getting consistent, high-level game time in Brazil, where his club, Botafogo, are competing for the league title and the Copa do Brasil, than he would by sitting on the bench or playing sporadically for us in the Premier League. The idea is to let him cook, to keep him in a competitive rhythm, and then bring him over when he is fully ready to be thrown into the relentless pace of English football. It's a long-term investment. We own the asset, but we're letting someone else polish him for us. On paper, there's a sliver of logic to it, but in practice, it feels incredibly strange. Think about the sheer absurdity of the situation from the player's perspective. He has his big move to the Premier League. He says his emotional goodbyes to his teammates and the fans of Botafogo. He probably has a farewell party, gets on a long-haul flight, arrives in a new country, signs the biggest contract of his life, and then gets told, "Right, thanks for coming, lad. See you next year." He then flies back and walks into the exact same changing room he just left a week earlier. Imagine the stick he must be getting from his teammates. It's the stuff of comedy sketches, yet it's the reality of his career right now. For the Botafogo fans, it was a roller coaster of emotions. They were gutted to lose a key young player, only to be gifted him back just days later as a crucial reinforcement for the remainder of their season. It's a win for them, no doubt. But for us, it leaves us a man down in a position where we could always use more options. So, I have to ask you, the fans, what is your honest take on this? Is this a stroke of genius from the board, a clever piece of long-term planning to ensure young talent develops properly? Or is it a completely pointless paper exercise that just looks messy and disorganized? Get in the comments and let me know. I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. If you think a player we just signed leaving immediately is strange, just wait until you hear about a player who has already left us for good. Because one of our former forwards is now being lined up for a very, very surprising move indeed. And there are certain players who, when they sign for your club, bring a huge wave of expectation with them. He was one of them. A player who had torn up the Premier League with his previous club. A forward with blistering pace, dazzling trickery, and an eye for the spectacular. You felt that if we could unlock that potential, we would have a serious weapon on our hands. But for one reason or another, it just never truly clicked for him here at the City Ground. There were flashes, of course, moments of brilliance that reminded you of the player inside, but the consistency was never there. He spent a lot of his time with us out on loan, and eventually he left the club by mutual consent. You'd be forgiven for thinking that was the end of his story, at least in the top tiers of British football, but you would be wrong. Because now, a true giant of a club, a household name in European football, is reportedly scrambling to sign him on a free transfer. The man in question is, of course, Emmanuel Dennis, and the club that is said to be in talks to secure his signature is none other than Scottish champions Celtic. According to a report by the Herald, Celtic find themselves in a desperate situation. They failed to sign a striker on transfer deadline day, leaving a gaping hole in their squad, and now they are scouring the free agent market for a solution. Dennis, without a club and with Premier League experience, has emerged as a prime target. Talks are believed to have been ongoing, and while nothing is concrete just yet, the interest is very real. It's a potential move that has certainly raised a few eyebrows, both here in the Midlands and up in Glasgow. Let's be honest about his time at Forest. It was frustrating. We all saw the talent that convinced the club to sign him in the first place. That incredible season he had for Watford in the 21-22 campaign, where he scored 10 goals in the Premier League, was the benchmark. That was the Emmanuel Dennis we hoped we were getting. A player who could create something out of nothing, who could terrorize defenders, but we rarely saw that player in a Forest shirt. His goal-scoring record, as the reports rightly point out, has been inconsistent throughout his career. His best ever season for goals was way back in 2017-18 for Club Brugge, where he managed 12. Since that Watford season, he hasn't hit double figures. For Nigeria, he has just one goal in 8 international appearances. This is the reality that the Celtic fans are now debating. Are they getting the Watford wizard or the player who struggled to make an impact at the City Ground? For Celtic, this is a gamble born of necessity. They are, as the reports state, cycling through a list of last resort signings. Dennis represents the ultimate low-risk, high-reward proposition. There's no transfer fee involved. They can get him on a sensible wage, and if their manager can find the key to unlocking that Watford form, they could have a league-winning asset on their hands. He could be the wild card that makes a difference in the title race, but if it doesn't work out, they can move on with minimal financial damage. It's a fascinating dilemma, and one that we as Forest fans can certainly relate to. We took the same gamble, and it didn't quite pay off. Will it be different for him up in Scotland? Only time will tell. It forces you to ask the question, would you have taken Dennis back at the City Ground on a free contract if we had the chance this summer? Was his time here simply a case of right player, wrong time, or was the inconsistency always going to be an issue? I'm fascinated to read your opinions on this. Comment below. From the fates of players coming and going, we now turn to a monumental battle that was fought off the pitch. A fight the club has been waging for months against the governing bodies. And the result? Well, it's a stunning victory against the Suits. We've all been there, haven't we? Sitting in the stands or screaming at the television, you see a blatant penalty denied. You watch a VAR decision go catastrophically against you. You feel that raw, burning sense of injustice. The feeling that the whole system, the whole world is against your club. We felt it acutely last season. The club, in a moment of pure frustration, decided they weren't going to stay silent any longer. They spoke out, they fought back, and they were immediately charged and punished for it. But they didn't just accept their punishment and move on. Oh no, they took the fight to the corridors of power. They challenged the very process of the Football Association. And now they have been vindicated in spectacular fashion. This is the incredible story of Nottingham Forest winning a landmark legal case against the FA. In a ruling that will send ripples across the entire sport, the club is said to be paid a six-figure sum by the FA itself after successfully arguing that there was apparent bias on one of its independent panels. This isn't just a fine being overturned. This is the club fundamentally challenging the fairness of the FA's disciplinary system and winning. It's a victory for standing your ground, a victory for refusing to be silenced, and it is a hugely significant moment in the club's recent history. This is about more than money. It's about principle. Let's break down how this happened, because it stems from two separate incidents. The first and most famous was the club's explosive tweet following the controversial 2-0 defeat at Everton last April. The tweet accused the VAR official of being a Luton Town fan, one of our direct relegation rivals, and stated the club could not accept the extremely poor decisions. The FA wanted to fine Forest an astronomical £1 million for that, eventually reducing it to £750,000. The club protested, calling the figure unjustified. The chair of the FA's panel, a KC named Graham McPherson, dismissed Forest's arguments as a somewhat hysterical submission. Remember that phrase. In a separate incident, Forest were fined £125,000 for a mass brawl during a game against Chelsea. The club appealed. To their shock, the same Mr. McPherson was appointed to chair the appeal. Forest immediately objected, arguing that his hysterical comment showed pre-existing bias against the club and that he couldn't possibly be impartial. He was eventually removed, but the damage was done. Forest took legal action and they have now won. This is so much bigger than just one case. It's a club, our club, holding the governing body of English football to account and exposing flaws in its supposedly independent process. That original tweet after the Everton match was seen by over 40 million people. At the time, many pundits and rival fans called it unprofessional, embarrassing, and accused the club of paranoia. But that single act of defiance started a chain of events that has led to this. It has led to the FA being forced to pay compensation to us. It has proven that the club's concerns about impartiality were not hysterical at all. They were legitimate. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes you have to make a noise, you have to risk being unpopular to fight for what you believe is right. The club stood up for itself, and by extension, for every other club that has ever felt wronged by an opaque and seemingly unaccountable system. How incredibly proud does this make you feel to be a Forest fan? To see our club not just battling for every point on the pitch, but fighting for justice and fairness off it. Looking back now, was that controversial tweet completely worth it in the end? Tell me what you think in the comments. A victory in the boardroom is a massive boost for morale, but we all know it's victories on the pitch that truly count. And to get those, you need top quality players. Well, on deadline day, a very, very big one arrived from North London. It's the final hour of the transfer window, deadline day. The clock is ticking down with that relentless, anxiety-inducing yellow and black graphic on the TV screen. You're refreshing your phone every 5 seconds, scrolling through social media, desperate for a sliver of good news. You hear whispers that a deal we've been working on for a Spanish left-back, Javi Galán from Atletico Madrid, has collapsed at the final hurdle. A familiar sense of dread begins to creep in. You start to worry that we're going to be left short. You start to resign yourself to disappointment, and then out of absolutely nowhere, a name appears. A name you never expected to see linked with Forest. A serial winner, a star from one of the biggest clubs in the country, an Arsenal player. The mood shifts instantly from despair to disbelief, and then to pure, unadulterated excitement. The player who landed at the City Ground in that dramatic late swoop is, of course, Oleksandr Zinchenko. The Ukraine international has joined Nottingham Forest on a season-long loan from Arsenal. Let that sink in for a moment. A player who has won 4 Premier League titles, an FA Cup, and 4 League Cups has just signed for our club. This is not a promising youngster or a player from a lesser league. This is a proven elite-level operator who has played at the very pinnacle of the game, arriving to pull on the Garibaldi red. It is without question a massive coup for Nottingham Forest and a huge statement of our ambition. The context of the deal makes it even more remarkable. Zinchenko had been looking for a move all summer after falling down the pecking order under Mikel Arteta at the Emirates. The French club Marseille were heavily interested, but his wages, reported to be north of £100,000 a week, proved to be a major stumbling block for them. That's the level of player we are talking about. When our move for Galán fell through, the club acted decisively and swiftly. They saw an opportunity and they seized it. They didn't panic. They pivoted to a target of even higher caliber. It's a sign of a well-oiled recruitment machine, ready to strike when the moment is right. The Ukrainian will spend the season with us before his Arsenal contract expires next summer, when he'll become a free agent. So what does he bring to the City Ground? In a word, quality. Immense, undeniable quality. He brings incredible technical ability, a fantastic range of passing, and a tactical intelligence honed under 2 of the world's best managers in Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta. He brings versatility, being perfectly comfortable at left back and in central midfield, giving the manager huge flexibility. But perhaps most importantly, he brings a winner's mentality. This is a man who has been in dressing rooms where winning isn't just a hope, it's a minimum requirement. He has played in a Champions League final. He knows what it takes to compete and succeed at the highest level. That kind of experience is simply invaluable. The standards he will set on the training pitch every single day will raise the bar for every single player at the club. This isn't just a signing for the starting 11, it's a signing designed to elevate the culture of the entire squad. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, I need to know your excitement level for this signing. How big a deal is the arrival of Zinchenko for you? Is he now technically the best footballer at Nottingham Forest? Get your ratings in the comment section below. We have a new star player in the building, but the massive looming question is this: who exactly will be managing him for the rest of the season? Because the biggest story of all, the one that is rumbling like an earthquake beneath the surface, is about the man in the dugout. The man in charge led us to a 7th place finish in the Premier League. He took Nottingham Forest back into European competition for the first time since 1996. An incredible, historic achievement. On the back of that success, you would think his job would be one of the safest in the entire league. You would think he would be building a statue of him outside the City Ground. But this is modern football, and this is Nottingham Forest. A club where stability is a precious commodity, and the pressure is always on. Despite the triumphs of last season, there are persistent reports of friction behind the scenes. Whispers of a complicated relationship, a rift between the manager and the owner. And following a heavy defeat at the weekend, those whispers have grown into a roar, with a very, very big name now being strongly linked with the job. The name on everyone's lips, the specter haunting the manager's office, is Ange Postecoglou. Multiple reports, including a detailed analysis by Fox Sports, suggest that the former Tottenham Hotspur manager is a serious candidate to take over at the City ground. The current gaffer, Nuno Espirito Santo, is said to be under immense pressure following the 3-0 loss to West Ham, with his already tense relationship with owner Evangelos Marinakis reportedly reaching a breaking point. Postecoglou, who was shockingly dismissed by Spurs despite winning the Europa League with them in May, is known to be desperate for another chance in the Premier League. The timing, the connections, and the ambition all seem to be aligning to create a perfect storm. This isn't just a random rumor thrown out by the media. There's a genuine documented connection between Postecoglou and our owner. Earlier this year, Marinakis personally presented the Greek-Australian manager with a prestigious award in Greece for his achievements in football. During his speech, Marinakis lavished praise on Ange, speaking of his pride in Postecoglou's Greek heritage and his success. He said, "What he has achieved, he did with a team that had not won a title, that has had very difficult moments in recent years. With this huge success that the whole world saw, he promoted Greece." He finished by saying, "Wherever he will go, the successes will come." Now, when an owner says that publicly about another manager, it's more than just a polite compliment. It's a massive endorsement. It's a seed being planted. When you combine that public admiration with the reports of a feud with the current manager, it creates an incredibly compelling narrative. Is it fair on Nuno? After what he achieved last season, absolutely not. The politics of football can be brutal and unforgiving. But for the fans, the prospect of a manager like Postecoglou, known for his attacking high-intensity football, Angeball, is undeniably tantalizing. It would be a statement signing in the dugout to match the statement signing of Zinchenko on the pitch. It would signal a clear, aggressive new direction for the club under Marinakis. The situation is incredibly fragile. So what does all this? The bizarre loan deal, the ex-player's new chapter, the legal victory, the blockbuster signing, and now the managerial drama say about who we are as a club? It says we are never quiet. It says we are never boring. We are a club that is constantly striving, constantly fighting, constantly evolving, and constantly in the headlines. It is the Forest way, and honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way. If you felt the roller coaster of emotions in this video, do 3 things for me right now. Hit that like button, comment below with who you want as manager, Nuno or Ange, and make sure you subscribe for more breaking news. What happens next with Nuno? Can he possibly survive the international break with his speculation swirling around him? And more importantly, is the arrival of a player like Zinchenko the end of our ambition for this season, or is it just the beginning of something much, much bigger? We'll be right here to cover it all. Come on, you Reds!